All right, it's Liquid Lunch. It's the special Calling All Vegans edition. That's what Nikki Hayes wants to call the show, right? So whatever Nikki Hayes wants, Nikki Hayes gets. Right, Sue?
Oh, well, yeah. It's been a different name every week, so.
We're going to get this thing nailed down one of these days. Well, but we got a great show lined up today. Thanks to you, Sue. I think mostly you, even though Nikki gets to call the shots on the name of the show.
Yeah.
You booked all the guests here today.
I do all the grunt work. She gets all the glory.
She gets the glory. So we're going to start the show off. We've got Dan and Sheanne Moskaluk joining us via Skype from Naramata, British Columbia. And that's the best looking Skype cam I've ever seen, guys. Yep. And we've got quite a story to tell. Do you want to introduce it, Sue? Or
I think Dan will just, he's the expert. He just dives right into this. So he's done a lot of these. Go.
So Sheanne and Dan Moskaluk, our social media handle, of course, Indian Rock Vegans. Indian Rock Vegans refers to this beautiful little hamlet that we live in Naramata, which is just at the south end of Okanagan Lake in the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia. And we've been plant-based, whole food plant-based vegans now since about 2010, 2011. Thanks to my wife, and I always use this one quote, it's thanks to her beautiful intelligence that I'm actually still alive today. So partial to her hard work over the past several years.
Yeah, we started leaning into this in 2010. Just by accident, my son came home having joined a gym, wanted to take all of the protein powders that he was told he would need to put on muscle. And that kind of led me into doing a little research on those powders. And I just went down the rabbit hole. Started just reading about all of the health ramifications of animal products, having eaten that way for 40-some years. And it was astounding when you started to actually read what animal products do to our bodies. So we started leading in 2010, well, at least I did.
Why did you?
Well, just for the health, really. And at that time, I actually weighed 300 pounds. So continued to read. April 1st, 2011, April Fool's Day, I decided that was it. Completely cleaned out my kitchen, my freezer, all the pantries, gave anything away that was an animal product. And I started cooking this way at home. The family was not too happy. They would sneak out for McDonald's and what have you. But eventually they all kind of got on board as they started feeling better and better. And so from that time forward, for about over 2 years, I lost 133 pounds by adopting.
That's amazing. So
that's pretty incredible. And I really didn't do it for weight loss. I did it for health. Weight loss was just a side effect. And so I thought that was all that the plant-based diet had to offer us. But that was just getting us ready for the really big fight, because in November of 2013, Dan was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. It was amazing because as I started getting into my 40s, the typical cue that you get from your physician, metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, about 35 pounds overweight. Then we got into the eating this way, and I started getting better. I started losing weight. The metabolic syndrome disappeared. The high blood pressure disappeared. Cholesterol disappeared. And we thought, this is great. Here we're getting into being empty nesters and into our retirement years ahead. But again, this 1 week, I ended up with severe abdominal pain. And long story short, ended up at the hospital thinking kidney stones, and was diagnosed that night, November 9th, 2013, with stage 4 kidney cancer with the right kidney completely one tumor. The tumor had metastasized into the vena cava, into lymph nodes, and then our lives changed.
Yeah. And they had said, they gave you months to 2 years maximum. And so, you get the rug pulled right out from under you, as everyone who's gone through that knows. And so kind of after regaining our balance a bit, I just turned my focus into researching the links between cancer and animal protein. And there's 100 years of information documenting the linkage. So I started us on what I consider, I mean, we were eating pretty clean. We were vegans, so more, transitional foods with fake meats, all of that kind of stuff, which is awesome. But we really took a deep dive into a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. And I started what I called as a program of nutritional excellence. And I crammed him full of greens. And I mean, I just pumped him up with as much good food as I could before he went in for a major surgery.
Yeah.
They removed the kidney, they removed many of the lymph nodes around the area. But they told us that it would be naive to think it wouldn't spread and that it would get worse. And
given months to 2 years was the prognosis. Stage 4 kidney cancer is terminal, and there's no effective treatment for it. But
and the stage 4 is only a 5% survival rate. So go ahead. So throughout we came out that door within about 15 months, cancer free. I was able to participate in a trial study drug with immunotherapy drugs, which are kind of the latest research focus these days. But I did have a near fatal side effect from the immunotherapy drugs, which essentially bump up your immune system to identify and kill the cancer cells. And what it can do, though, it's kind of like unleashing a tiger, and they're not sure what the tiger is going to do, and your immune system can turn on itself, and that's exactly what it did. It hit my liver one night. The protocol was 4 treatments of the combination of the drugs every 3 weeks. So we were going down to Vancouver from about a 4-hour drive into Vancouver to the clinic there to receive the treatment at the clinic. And I made it to 3 treatments and then had that near fatal side effect where it was attacking my liver. Now, the treatment itself was supposed to be 4 treatments for every 3 weeks, and then onto a maintenance program. Every 2 weeks, I was supposed to receive the treatment again down in Vancouver, but with the side effect for the rest of my life, or as long as I could endure the treatment, or as long as I was healthy enough. But again, with the side effect, I was dismissed, and I haven't received any medical intervention since May 2014. May 2014. And they started talking about remission within about 8 months of into the diagnosis. Within 15 months, one of the last appointments at the cancer clinic was that we're closing your file. Your cancer is radiologically undetectable. So, it's astounding. And so the big aha moment is that you realize that not only, so you make your body better by eating a whole food plant-based lifestyle. So then you think about all of the animals that are suffering to provide us with food that is basically killing us. Because the research is, the data is solid that animal products are just detrimental to human health. Mm-hmm. And so that's a huge paradigm shift from everything we were raised in the standard American diet. We ate tons of meat, tons of dairy, fed our kids that way, the hot dogs, you name it, all of that kind of thing. And I think we still lie in bed at night worrying about, did our kids start this early enough to dodge those bullets, God, if we'd known then what we know now, mm-hmm. we would have, from conception, had them on a vegan, whole food, plant-based diet. Luckily, they've both adopted it, 22 and 25. Yeah. So fingers crossed that'll go well. But, and it's during the whole process, physicians would kind of say, how's your appetite? Not what are you eating, just how's your appetite? And then we tell them, especially when we were went into this trial study, I was like, I want it noted that we're whole food plant-based. Doctor didn't want to know, didn't care. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to muddy the water that this could possibly be an effective treatment, which we know it is. And as I say in the movie that we're featured, the documentary, there's no money in sending people home to eat their vegetables and drink their water. So I think that's
yeah. But and then again, we essentially looked when I was going through the cancer diagnosis, we looked like we do now, and we neither of us looked like we should be at the cancer clinic, and let alone a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. So essentially the health aspect is what got us into it. But again, like everybody knows, once you lean into this and you look at the trifecta of environmental impact and animal rights, how what we're doing to billions of animals by eating this way, it becomes clear, crystal clear.
When you start investigating how your food is produced and how it's arriving on your plate, that veil is lifted, and once you see, you can never unsee.
Yeah.
And so we came for the health and we stayed for the ethics, is what I say.
Yeah.
And that, health will always remain a huge component of it, because I think there's 3 ways for people to go vegan. It's like you either care about your health, you care about animals, or you care about the environment. And so if we can dance with you long enough, we'll get you. One of those.
Yep.
So So then this whole opportunity, or this whole health event, My Weight Loss Dance Cancer Survival, kind of got us involved in a documentary. You want to talk about that?
But I don't know, any questions thus far, or anything we haven't looked at?
I'll ask you a question because you started eating vegan in 2010. Right? And then, Dan, you got diagnosed in 2013.
Yes.
And then you took some further, so what's the difference between the diet that you adopted to deal with the cancer diagnosis versus what you were doing before?
Well, it was vastly different.
We were vegan initially, and
oils.
We were cutting out animal products, and we were replacing them with a lot of the transitional meats and, some vegan foods. When we went whole food plant-based, we only eat food as grown, nothing that's processed. We don't eat any oil. If you open my fridge, there's nothing to eat that's already prepped. You have to make, those are all ingredients. Unless you want a carrot stick or something like that. So
okay. But I'm just curious about even eating whole plant-based foods now. We've got things like GMOs to deal with. We've got things like glyphosate to deal with. I mean, what are your thoughts, your comments, or how did you deal with that?
Well, I think that a lot of people really concern themselves with the pesticides. But if you look at the China study and Dr. Colin Campbell, who's really probably the world-renowned expert on human nutrition
and cancer,
and he really thinks that animal protein, particularly casein in milk, is a stronger cancer promoter than all pesticides and herbicides put together. And also, when they test those herbicides and pesticides on animals, they're using them in much greater quantities, in a magnitude that we wouldn't be exposed to as humans. Whereas when they do the same experiments with casein, the main protein in cow's milk, they're using the same amounts that we as humans would actually be exposed to on a daily basis. Not only that, the animals that people are eating feed that has been sprayed with pesticides, and they're eating those several times a day, whereas the plants that we're eating directly may have been sprayed a few times during their life cycle. Not to mention, most of the soy that we consume as, that is given to us as soy milk and tofu and all of those kind of things, if you check, they're all GMO, they're non-GMO. There's a little stamp on them all. But the feed that is fed to livestock, the soy, the corn, I always think people are really concerned about GMO, then you're concerned about eating meat. Because you're looking at it would be from plants. Does that make sense?
Well, it kind of makes sense that, if you're it sounds like if you're concerned about GMOs or concerned about pesticides, still the best thing you can do is to give up animal products, right? Oh.
Yeah, we've kind of really done ourselves in with the Roundup product because it is water soluble. So it's in our rainwater, it's in our lakes, it's in our streams. It's hard to get true organic produce, not to mention, if you're using animal, manure as a fertilizer, has that animal ever eaten anything that's got a pesticide? It's a really slippery slope when you go down that way. So really you have to take the steps that you can, and that is to eat plants. And, there's for Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, there's certain plants that you want to, biggest bang for your buck as far as, things like spinach, strawberries. I try and always buy organic for those, and you do the best you can.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's hear about the documentary, which is called Eating You Alive, I think.
Yeah, shameless plug.
So that's what it looks like, and it's in 3D.
So it was an amazing way it all transpired as well. It was, typical. The connectivity of social media in this day and age is just phenomenal, and it all came about of one Sunday afternoon of sitting online on Facebook, and after seeing the trailers for the film for the past couple of months. Coming soon. So it was all we kept seeing, and the trailers just amazing. Samuel Jackson, James Cameron, and his wife, Suzy Amis Cameron, and Penn Jillette, and all the rock stars are in it, all the researchers. And so I direct messaged the producers, and lo and behold, she contacted me back immediately via Facebook. And I told her, when's the movie coming out? We're so excited about it. This is what we've been through, and we're really, really excited about this film. And its predecessors over the years that we've seen over the years with Forks Over Knives and Education and Nation, Plant Your Nation, and all those in this genre. So she said, I'd like to call you right back right now. Can I do that? And I said, sure. So we had an hour-long conversation. Sean, of course, she's doing the Sunday thing in the household, and from the other side of the house, why are you on the phone? We got work to do. I'm leaving for Chilliwack today. And so I said, I'm on the phone. Like that, ever. So I said, I'm on the phone with the producers of Eating You Alive. And she's like, oh. So they called us back, and we chatted, and they said, we want to include you in the film. We've concluded production, but we want to include your story, and we want to get you down here this week. So
it's like, where's down here? And Atlanta, Georgia.
Yep.
We're like, okay.
So
that was a Sunday. By Thursday, we were flying to Atlanta, Georgia.
Chattanooga.
And drove to Chattanooga and spent a day with the crew and filmed our story. And then that was all we kind of heard, because it was 9 months of editing and whatever they do to movies. And after 9 months, it was kind of like a pregnancy. Is it going to be a beautiful baby or not?
Or are we going to end up on the cutting room floor?
And so they started doing going through the United States to do a pre-release premieres, and they were in Seattle, and they called us up and they said, gee, we're so close to you guys. Could we just drive up and do a screening in Penticton, which is our little community? And so we said, okay. So we set it up here in our town, and we sold 2 shows, 300 each. And
Sheanne,
yeah.
I think I figured it out. When it's loud here, that's when you cut out. So.
Okay, I hear the
sirens.
It's funny, we got Max, our Westie, here sitting at our feet, and he's listening
looking
to
at the sirens.
But backtracking, so we set up a screening here, and it was the first time we saw the film ourselves. We shared it with our community here in Penticton with 600 plus viewers.
Yeah.
And it was quite an experience and quite emotional.
Very emotional.
It's a beautifully made movie. It's very moving. Of course, the layers of the film are the rock stars, as we all refer to them, of the human health nutrition field. Regular physicians that have adopted this lifestyle medicine practices
to cure themselves and their patients.
And then these success stories, health success stories, ranging from diabetes, cancer, weight loss,
Heart disease.
lupus,
Lupus,
heart
yeah.
disease, and really a top shelf production.
Yeah, we're so proud to be involved in this production. It's just, you still have to pinch yourself that you even had this opportunity. It just premiered in theaters across the United States on
April 5th.
April 5th.
About 600 theaters.
600 theaters in all 50 states. We went down to Bellingham to participate in a Q&A in the theater after the film, which was lots of fun.
Yeah.
We were able to travel through British Columbia and Alberta with it last year, in the crew and us, the producer, the director.
Yeah.
So it's been fantastic. And so that kind of really gave us a platform to springboard further into our activism, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
We promote, we advocate for a whole food, plant-based vegan lifestyle. We started to participate in a lot of animal activism as well. And, we're in our, I just turned 54, Dan's 55, and I finally want to know what I want to do when I grow up, and this is it.
That's
We just
fantastic.
talk about this, and, you might not want to listen, but I need to tell you. I just, we feel honored and obligated to share our story in hopes that we will allow people to avoid what we've been through.
Yeah.
Dan, how have your fellow officers responded to this?
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned Dan's an RCMP officer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm 32 years service here with the RCMP, and the last 10 of which as a media spokesperson for the force. So again, I advocate for wellness and well-being within our organization. People became aware, of course, because I left work that November once I had the diagnosis, and was off work for the 2-year period.
Never expected
we went back to work, and of course the first moment you're back, like everybody who's gone through a health scare and has been able to reverse an illness via whole food plant-based lifestyle, you want to shout it from the rooftops. And you go through the phases of everybody's quite intrigued, interested, and then, as we know in the vegan world at time, that people have that issue of cognitive dissonance, and that they don't want to believe or want to consider some of the benefits that you speak about, and regardless of some of the facts that you share. So it's interesting. You have some rejection. Some people get that blank stare. But again, there's a lot of people that are going through things or want to prevent it. They do come forward and approach us, and I've been approached quite a bit within the organization. So I think what's happened too over the past couple of years, as we all have seen, is the awareness of it is certainly increasing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the ripple effect has been huge in our own community. I think, you don't want to toot your own horn, but between Dan's story, Dan being quite a public figure in our area, and then our story hit the news, the movie was here, and we've had a lot of people approach us saying, wow, we've adopted this because of you guys, and we're lowering our blood pressure medications, our diabetes, so it's really, it's so, I don't think there's any greater joy than helping other people, especially regain their health.
Yeah, I think as first responders, it's very challenging work. It's very rewarding. We're there to help our communities and do best by them. So I think, as I always knew communications was going to be part of my life afterwards. I just didn't know what the vehicle was going to be. So this platform of health, animal rights activism, and the environmental impact of what we're currently doing, and what we could be doing, certainly has been a springboard for us, and we're very, very passionate about it, as you can see.
Yeah.
The Canadian Rip Esselstyn, right?
we're many of us everywhere, and as we connect, we see the network that is building. There, without a doubt, 2016 was big. Again, with media work, we look at outcome projection in communications. And when we look worldwide, what has been going on with the vegan movement, whole food, plant-based, certainly things are growing. There's more awareness. We're tipping the scales with mainstream media. We're gaining the attention that's required for it, and people are starting to watch and listen. But again, we're so many of us doing so much wonderful work, and the community fabric is wonderful. Like, we've connected with people worldwide. We love Los Angeles with the group of people there. Vancouver has Liberation BC, which is a core group of individuals that kind of umbrellas and helps out all of the organizations from Anonymous for the Voiceless to DXE to Vancouver Chicken Save. So between the animal rights, the foodie aspect of it, and then globally, what we've got, like you got Robbie Lockey with Plant-Based News, Earthling Ed, James Aspey, and then our own Canadians as well. You know, we've got Brenda Davis here right in the Okanagan, who's a world-renowned registered dietitian who's been at it for about 35 years.
She speaks everywhere.
She's in
everywhere.
Berlin
Right now.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see what's happening, and I think people are starting to finally pay attention to this, and that we've got that wedge in, definitely.
And it's thanks to the internet, really, because, you know, when you look at the doctors like Colin Campbell, John McDougall, Caldwell Esselstyn, all of these guys who've been plugging away for 40, 50 years trying to get this message out that we need to eliminate animal protein. And it's only been because, you know, that's not being picked up by mainstream media because clearly you know who your advertisers are. And so suddenly this information is just getting out there. Yeah. And even in the short time we've been doing this of 7 years, you know, initially when you said you were vegan, people were, oh, what is that? And now everybody knows what that means.
Okay, guys, listen, it's great to have you on the show here. Is there any contact info you want to give out before we...
Yeah, we'll wrap up. Raw Vegan, our social media platform. Quickly, though, like when we talk about the activism, we've got July 14th in Ottawa, Nation Rising, which is a phenomenal event that will have the platforms with respect to changing our government's look at animal agriculture subsidies, looking to change to plant-based subsidies, as well as our helping farmers transition. Now, again, Nations Rising, a phenomenal event that is taking shape with the speakers to date. We've got James Aspey, Dr. David Jenkins, who's the researcher, the inventor of the glycemic index, co-producer Salish Rao of Cowspiracy, the Climate Healers, and Indian Rock Vegan. So we're coming all the way from British Columbia to Ottawa, our hometown, for this. And again, we're kind of fixers and a hub for this movement for whole food, plant-based, vegan animal rights with Indian Rock Vegans. And we're kind of fixers. We just love to connect everybody.
Okay, fantastic. Oh, yeah, and I heard a rumor we might be showing that movie, Eating You Alive, in Toronto somewhere. Sue, is that accurate?
Might be here. Maybe here, right here.
Yeah, stay tuned for possibly opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, thanks a lot for doing this today.
I really
looks like you
appreciate
got
it. Thank
some
you.
good weather out there in British Columbia, and we've actually got some here in Toronto
Yeah,
now.
for a
So
change.
we're catching up.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break here, Sue, and then we got Mary, Chris, and Daisy Staples coming on the show right after this. So we'll be right back here on thatchannel.com.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. All right, we're back here on the show. It's Liquid Lunch. It's calling all vegans. There's still a debate about the name of the show, a little inconsistency so far because when Nikki Hayes wants something, Nikki Hayes gets something.
That's squeaky wheel. You'll get your grease, woman. Just.
So now we've got Mary Chris Staples joining us and Daisy Staples. Is Daisy's last name the same as yours?
Yes. Yeah.
Look at how cute that is. Right? Yeah. That
I'm
is
the
so
She's a
luckiest
good
girl in the
girl.
world right now.
Little vegan Daisy.
Yep.
And that's a Whippet,
She's a Whippet, yeah.
which is, I just learned this morning, DNA identical to a greyhound, right?
That's correct.
Except they're smaller.
Yeah.
Yep. Whip it good.
Do you know how many people, when I'm walking down the street with her, just say that out of the blue, just whip it good. And it's so funny. It's awesome.
You know where that's from?
From Devo. I love Devo.
Are we not men?
But but to think how many people actually know Devo, that's what I like.
That's really surprising
It
because
is.
when they first came out, it was like, who the heck are these
Yeah,
guys?
with the
right?
flower
The guys
pots
with
on
the
their
flower
heads.
pots.
Yeah.
Well, flower pots, which is where you grow vegan food.
There you
In a
go.
flower pot,
Oh,
oftentimes.
it has
See?
come full circle.
Full
Nice.
circle.
Well done.
And now we're talking about, I don't know exactly what, Mary Chris. I have a little note here, which is chalktivism. Chalktivism?
Yeah, we can talk about chalktivism. For
I
sure.
saw some chalktivism yesterday because,
Where?
well, I'll tell you where, because, and I told Sue already, but I just walked from here down to Nathan Phillips Square yesterday where they were having a big Earth Day thing. And on the sidewalk, somebody wrote, "Watch Cowspiracy" on Netflix, and then I heard that Sue was doing the exact same message in chalktivism
In
up in
Newmarket.
Newmarket. So what's going on? Is this like some sort of secret society?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, and I'm guilty of the one at Nathan Phillips Square. So
You
thrilled.
are?
Yes,
You did that
was
one?
me.
You wrote that?
I wrote that.
That is so weird.
I know.
That's weird.
And it's so good to hear that you saw it. So yes, there was a big event at Nathan Phillips Square, and I made sure that I chalked some messages at all the main entrances. So the one you saw wasn't the only one. There were probably about 10 others all around there. And,
weird.
And I saw lots of people taking photos of them. And that was an event called Earth Day Chalktivism. And I just put it out there online, invited as many people as I could, and told other people to invite whoever they wanted, and just simply said, grab a piece of chalk and let's get as many people as possible watching the film Cowspiracy. Just write Cowspiracy anywhere, everywhere, all over the world. And people did. People took the challenge, and
Very powerful.
yeah, a simple little technique.
Okay, so now I'm just saying that's all I have to go on. So we can go in any direction now. I've got some questions already.
Okay.
But if you want to steer this conversation a certain direction, just grab the conversation by the ears and let's go, okay?
All right, okay.
But I want to ask you about this Cowspiracy movie because obviously you're telling people to watch it. What is this movie and what's so special about it? What's it all about?
What's really special about it is that it talks about the importance of animal agriculture in the climate problem. And what's extra special about it is it was done by someone who was a real Al Gore fan, loved everything that he was talking about in Inconvenient Truth, and then along the way started to question why Al Gore and many other people were not really mentioning animal agriculture in their film. I'm pretty sure Kip, I can't remember his last
Anderson,
name. Anderson. I don't believe he was vegan, animal rights, anything like that at the time. But so he started to do his research, and he tried to speak with all kinds of groups, Sierra Club and Greenpeace, and saying, why is it nobody is talking about this secret? So it's pretty powerful in that sense that it wasn't coming from an animal rights group, it wasn't coming from a vegan group, it was coming from someone who really cared about the planet and had some important questions. So it's a wonderful film for anybody to just see that there's another side to thing. And of course, as the film went along, I'm pretty sure Kip Anderson is
He's
vegan now,
definitely
especially
vegan.
because he came out with What the Health afterwards. There was a scene in the film where he was going to witness the killing of a chicken by a backyard butcher type of guy, and he ended up rescuing the chicken. So that was the highlight of the film for me. So it's a powerful, powerful film, but you don't people don't know about it if they don't know about it. And so we wanted to make sure that people knew about it, and hopefully they'll go home and they'll check it out, and they'll at least see that there's another side. They'll at least ask questions and hopefully do some more research into the role of animal agriculture.
And everybody has Netflix these days.
And that was the beauty, and I was hoping that everybody that did their Chalktivism put on Netflix.
Yeah, I was hoping that too.
Yeah, to make sure that people realized it was simple. You can go online and find it, but it's not quite as easy.
Very simple message.
Yeah, for Earth Day, that
And-
was the plan. It
yeah.
wasn't just any day, it was for Earth Day.
And it
so-
was consistent.
And it was consistent.
Right.
So you'll be
Yeah.
watching that tonight, will you? You?
I will watch it. It's
That would be great. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Honestly, it's good. I met a few skeptics yesterday who said, but what about this and what about that? And I said, do me a favor, just watch it.
Yeah.
Just watch it and then ask your questions. I said, I'm not an expert on the environment, but I think there's something to this that at least needs to be questioned. And most people were satisfied with that answer and willing to check it out. It's all
Well, yeah,
we can
you're
ask.
deferring to the experts. You're not,
Absolutely.
you know,
And there could
blaming
be
yourself.
flaws in the film. I'm like I said, I'm
course,
not,
yeah.
but it's an important thing that people should be asking questions about.
So, how did you come to be a chalktivist and and even a vegan? Were you always a vegan, or what happened?
No, not always a vegan. I was a late bloomer. For me, it happened with a leaflet. A friend of mine was visiting me one day, and she dropped a PETA leaflet on the table, and she said, "Oh, you should look at this." And I was like, I don't want to look, I don't want to know, just like a lot of people do. I knew what was going to be in there, but I didn't want to look. And anyway,
Then you can't unsee.
yeah, and I think, obviously, I'm one of those people who said, I always loved animals, but clearly I didn't know what that meant. And but eventually, I flipped through the leaflet, and I saw a little image of a tiny piglet having teeth pulled out with a plier, and it just shocked me so much that, because as much as I knew something was going on, like everyone else, I thought it was necessary. These animals were put here for us, so this must be necessary. But I also believed that human beings couldn't possibly do it in a horrible way. I had faith in human beings. And that day turned my life upside down. That one image turned my life upside down, and I decided to become vegan overnight. And overnight, I did. I ended up being veganish for a little while because I couldn't find something good to put in my coffee. But now I'll do a plug for So Nice for Coffee.
What is So Nice for Coffee?
Oh, it's the best coffee creamer out there. It's not too sweet. It's the closest thing I found to that flavor of real cream in my
It's just
coffee.
so nice.
Yeah.
But I just want to, because, that could be, obviously it was an issue for you, and it's probably an
Huge.
issue for a lot of people.
Yeah.
For a lot
Because
of
what I find is that, you get like the almond milks or the coconut milks or whatever, they don't quite lighten up the coffee the way you want it, right?
They didn't. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I actually switched to tea for a little while, but when you're addicted to something like coffee, you want your coffee in the morning. And so I've now, and I tried various products, but once I found So Nice, it's like,
What's it made out of?
it's a soy product as well. I don't remember what else is in there, but for some reason it has the consistency, the color, everything that I needed in my coffee. So that was it. Pretty much went overnight. For me, I became really, really depressed almost instantly. I felt like, not because I became vegan, but because I had been naive to all of this all my life, what was actually happening to animals. And so for me, it was kind of like a Band-Aid had been ripped off of something, and all of this horrible stuff was exposed. I went online to look for some support. I was the only vegan I knew, and I ended up having an amazing conversation with a woman named Twyla Francois, an unbelievable person. You should
She's
get Twyla on
unreal.
here.
Yeah.
She was an undercover investigator. She didn't know me from anyone, and this was in the middle of the night, and she talked me through it. And her advice was, get involved with an animal rights group. And that's when I discovered Liberation BC, which they had mentioned in the last segment. And Liberation BC saved me. They are...
It's right on your shirt there.
Yeah, that's the shirt. This
we
is a
are.
Liberation BC shirt.
So you were living in BC back then?
Yes, I was living in Vancouver at the time. And They are a very experienced group. Glenn Gates and Joanne Chang, they now own I think it's still the only vegan shoe store in Canada. It's called Nice Shoes, fantastic place to buy vegan shoes. Becky and Roger Clark and Willow Hoshman. Amazing group of people. I learned everything I know about activism from those wonderful people. So that's what I did. I met them, I got involved, and they were largely focused on outreach kinds of activities, and so that's sort of been my path from there.
Now, do you do other stuff other than the Chalktivism?
Oh yeah, Chalktivism.
yeah.
Chalktivism is just what I'm doing now. There were a lot of things before that. In Vancouver, actually, I started what's now known as the Chicken Vigil. There's a huge chicken slaughterhouse on a busy street in Vancouver called Commercial Drive. And it was just down the street from the high school that I was teaching at. So I had heard of Toronto Pig Save and what they were doing, so I decided I would start something outside there. What was amazing about this slaughterhouse is it's a huge gray wall that blocks it from the street. There's no name on it that says Hallmark Chicken Slaughterhouse. It was just this big building that I never knew existed. And so I decided I'm going to let people know what's behind the big gray wall. So I had posters made, and that was the slogan, behind the wall. And you would see drivers go by and look up at the wall. And that was my main goal. It wasn't to be vigils necessarily for the chickens, but to expose this company and let them know that you cannot operate anonymously. People are going to know
love their anonymity.
Yes, so people are going to know what you're doing here. And so I started that, and gosh, carried that on for a couple of years. Then I had to move back to Toronto to help take care of my aging parents. I was born in Toronto. And so when I left, I was devastated that I would have to leave the chicken vigils behind, but some great people from Liberation BC have kept it going strong even till today. So
That's great. Plus, there's lots of people in Toronto doing stuff.
Yes. So when I arrived in Toronto, my main focus was my parents, but I knew I had to do some activism. I had been to a couple of vigils, but I thought, they're important. I think they're absolutely necessary, but I needed to do something different. So what bothered me was everybody at the vigil knew what was happening in the St. Helens and Riding Regency slaughterhouses and Maple Leaf Slaughterhouse, but the thousands of people driving on the streets just around the corner had no idea what was going on back there. Back and forth, going about their day, while thousands and thousands of animals were screaming for their lives around the corner. So I started a similar thing that I had done in Vancouver, where I went out on the streets to expose what was happening back there and let people know what was going on just around the corner. And I spoke to many people in the years doing that who had no idea that kind of thing was happening there.
That was through signage and leafleting and actual conversations.
And they would say, they knew animals were being slaughtered somewhere, but they didn't know it was right there, and that made a difference for them, because now it wasn't as easy to put it out of their minds. And my goal was, every time you drive through this neighborhood, I want you to be hearing those animals screaming for their lives. So started out just by myself with one little sign out on the street, and that was my goal, was to go out once a week, because my focus was on my parents. But bit by bit, people started to join me, and then Toronto Pig Save and the Save movement got involved and started giving us funding to get more signs, and we started doing it. So we were out there every Tuesday morning, 7:30 to 9:30, when the traffic was super busy, and then once a month on Saturdays for the people who couldn't come out on a Tuesday morning. And that went on for 3 years, and until just this past September, when my poor older dog Stanley started to really slow down and wasn't doing so well, and I absolutely had to step back for a little while to focus on him and take care of him, and I didn't want to miss his beautiful life, so I stepped back, and that's where the Chalktivism came in, because I knew I couldn't do nothing for animals. So I thought, how can I still try to inspire people? How can I still lead people into some activism without really leaving my house very much? So I started a campaign called Adopt a School, and where I asked activists to pick one school in their neighborhood or near their work, somewhere that was easy for them to go to. And once a month, we would go around our adopted schools and chalk messages and put up posters related to some animal rights vegan message. So with the help of the Save movement, I had the posters printed, self-adhesive, and I would get them to the activists.
That was a great idea.
And they would take half an hour once a month to go out, put up posters all around their school, chalk a few compassionate messages, and leave. So that my goal was to reach young people. I think that's an area that we haven't been able to really capitalize on.
The sponges.
The sponges, and they're not defensive. They're, they're willing to listen. So at the moment, we have 50 schools in Toronto that have been adopted. Every month they're getting a different message. So of course, this last month's message, for example, was Cowspiracy. So we posted Cowspiracy messages around all the schools, chalked messages. We've done animal testing, Christmas messages of peace on earth for all beings, that kind of thing. Always peaceful, compassionate messages, and hopefully reaching some of the minds of young people until we can get in the schools and be teaching what we need to do. I thought, well, we'll get them from outside while we can. And
Now, are you making any progress on getting into those schools?
I haven't been focusing so much on that aspect of it. Just last week, though, I was invited to a school to have some cute little grade 6s interview me about animal agriculture and the environment. So I've done several of those. I'm sure various people have had invitations like that into schools, but nothing that's sort of systematic inviting us in. I know in Vancouver anyway, the high schools have a social justice program that students can take, and many of the teachers are showing them things like Earthlings, Cowspiracy, Peaceable Kingdom, various things. So it's in there, but it's certainly not mainstream to any degree. So, and in fact, many of us have found doing this project, you'll put up a super peaceful poster like a Why Love one but eat the other, very cute poster, and they are ripped down. You see it the next day, and they're not gently taken down. They are ripped down in anger
There's
by
a little anger.
by people who just, and I actually witnessed a guy rip one down one time, and I said, can I just ask why you're taking that down? And he said, well, I don't think that's your place to be teaching kids this kind of thing. And I said, well, whose place is it? And he said, their parents. And I said, well, maybe the parents should be ripping them down and not you. Like, this wasn't even a parent. He was just an angry person. And I tried to get him to explain what was offensive. And it was clearly that this was, a taboo topic that, don't let those children hear the truth. So it's been interesting. And in terms of progress, it's one of those things that you just have to have a little faith. My feeling going into it was 50 schools, if 10 students at each school took any real interest in it and maybe did some research, that's 500 kids. That's a lot of kids, to be thinking about something and maybe talking with their friends.
Well, it's probably maybe having more impact than you think. I mean, even the fact that I had read your message from yesterday, right?
Such good,
was so
exactly,
cool,
yeah.
So now, is there anything else you're working on, or anything else you want to let people know about, or is there a website or something that you want to promote?
Well, the next month, Adopt a School theme is going to be dairy, because Mother's Day is coming up. So it's a time to think of the mother cows and all the babies that they lose, mother hens and all the babies that they lose. So obviously that will be the message that will go up at the schools. But as well, I figured I would try again just posting a Chalktivism event like we did for Cowspiracy, and just get people chalking dairy messages all over the city, all over the world. Just anything that'll bring attention to the fact that dairy is not what they think it is, because it's a really tough one to figure. People just like,
The toughest.
what's bad about dairy? They're just like happy cows and we take their milk. It's like, no, they don't know the secrets behind the dairy industry. So that will be the main one. We'll get people watching Dairy is Scary on YouTube and various things like that. So that's the plan for May. And then the final month is going to be, the focus for the schools is going to be on bearing witness, and I'm hoping that we can organize a special vigil at the cow slaughterhouses specifically for students, and get them to actually look into the eyes of the animals on the transport trucks. And
Now,
that's
how are
a
you going to
tough
do that?
one.
Do you have a
we'll advertise it at the schools. It'll be in a poster, and it'll be an invitation, and You know, I'm hoping to get the wonderful Anonymous for the Voiceless Cube of Truth to come to one of the schools and do an episode of
That's
that.
so powerful.
Where we'll actually be able to spend time speaking with the kids and inviting them to come. So that we'll probably do only at the high schools, though, as opposed to the elementary schools, just because some of the content might
Subject
be
matter is very
tough for the little ones. But that's it. Yeah, hopefully I'll get back. I mean, as well as the Toronto Slaughterhouses exposed things that we did at St. Clair and Keele. I can't even count the number of events I organized over the past 3 years at hockey games, Raptors games, baseball games. I always like to try and find a common ground with the public to build events around. So to go to a hockey game wearing my Leafs jersey and showing them like, hey, you know, we're not that far apart. We have something in common, and still spread the vegan animal rights message. So
Well, you're sure not preaching to the choir when you're going to a hockey or a Raptors game. are you?
Definitely not.
So
There-
that's what we want to do. We
Yeah.
wanna get out there.
yeah, and I, you know, I would say go Leafs, go vegan, and you know, and they couldn't help but, you know, they wanted to give me the finger, they wanted to say something,
she
but
likes the
I'm wearing a
Leafs.
Leafs jersey.
You're
What can you
scrambling
do?
their
Exactly,
neurons.
exactly. Yeah, and that's it. And we did one at a Sia concert where, you know, Sia is such a wonderful animal rights advocate, but most of her fans probably aren't. So the idea was to draw attention that, hey, Sia loves animals. Maybe you could love animals too. So anything that'll show that we're not that far apart and that we're all in this world together. And that's sort of how I've tried to build my activism.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
Do you think
Oh,
the
I'm
Leafs are
kidding.
going to win tonight?
Well, I'll tell you, if the Leafs win tonight, the world's going vegan. Anything's possible.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
We scared poor Daisy
Oh,
with
Daisy.
that
So
outburst.
We
Okay.
hope. Yeah.
Well, this is great. Thanks for coming in and
thanks so
bringing Daisy. You're welcome to bring Daisy anytime. And,
she's a
any
good-
other animals? I don't know if you got any, you know, rescue pigs or whatever. I'd love to have some cute little rescue pigs.
I don't
running
have
around.
my
Great.
sanctuary anymore.
Okay,
My
bye,
suit could have
Daisy.
come on.
Daisy said, "Time's up. Time's up. We're out of here."
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay.
Great.
So, Mary Chris, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Oh, you asked for a website.
Oh, yeah.
Animalrightstoronto.com. I'm sure Jenny and everybody has mentioned
Susan,
it.
yeah.
Wonderful website to see what's going on in the city. All kinds of activism, no matter what kind you like.
Okay. Animalrightstoronto.com.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Holy days.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and
Yeah.
I guess we got to clean the couch
I
down.
guess so. Jeez.
So we'll be right back. We got more coming up. Liquid Lunch, thatchannel.com.
Yeah. Good. Thanks. Fun. Very fun.
We've left a dollar.
We're back on the show here now. This is one of the things we like about Mondays is that more often than not we get a chance to sample some, I'll just call it food. But it's vegan food, isn't it?
Yes, it is vegan food, and it is delicious vegan food.
I know. We're going to find out just how delicious it is.
I say
because
so.
Looks good.
It's Michelle Spring here from... Now, first of all, we had a
Okay,
bit of a
let's get this.
thing on the website, but I'm just going to say it's the, arealhandful.com?
Mm-hmm.
It's not clusters.ca, is it?
It was clusters.ca up until yesterday.
With a
I'm
K.
not sure
Clusters with a K.
what happened, but clusters with a K.
But it doesn't matter now because now you're appealing to the global market with a .com.
With a .com, yes.
Right? So,
yes, either one.
So, okay, so what is what is your business exactly? I mean, we've got lots of food here, so we know we got food, but
Yes.
are you tell us about A Real Handful.
Well, I sure will. So, A Real Handful was born out of my background in nutrition. I was a nutrition coach, still am, but I was working for a company, a health and wellness company, and a lot of recurring complaints or issues or concerns that my clients had were, they did want to go plant-based, but there wasn't really anything out there on the market that was whole food based, that they could feel like they're actually eating a meal, if you will, or eating something nutritionally of value, such as a really good meal or salad. And so I began to experiment with my then newly dehydrator.
It's not new anymore?
Oh no, there's about 4 of them now. But the dehydrator family grew over the years as the business grew. But I began to experiment, and my daughter at the time was my inspiration actually as well, because she's always looking for something really healthy to eat. And
Lucky you.
and I love to be in the kitchen to experiment with new
How old
flavors.
was she when she was looking
At the
for healthy food?
time, she was in her probably late teens, early 20s.
Why was she so interested in healthy food?
She was interested in healthy food because she was dealing with some health issues as well, and
Okay.
she was looking to nutrition to help rectify those issues.
Okay.
We found out what the issue was after a while, and that was actually celiac disease. But until we got to that destination of the diagnosis, we were really going through a lot of hoops to figure out what was going on.
Which
So
just
she
goes
was
to-
an inspiration as well.
Yeah, that just tells you that, that if you eat healthy, like, you may not get some of these conditions that are based on the foods that we're eating, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Nutrition is directly linked to health, as we know, and especially whole food nutrition. There's a lot of snacks on the market, as you know, that are flour-based or are, sugar-based or very, very sweet. Even the healthier options, they're filled with agave nectar or, very syrupy, very sweet things, and even some of the protein bars are protein powder based. So again, it's not considered a whole food. Your
Very
macronutrient
processed, yeah.
exactly, and your macronutrients are processed basically. So.
And this is what we were talking about with our first guest today, and they cured themselves of cancer with whole foods, which is what you got here. Let's dive in, shall we?
Be my guest.
Where do we start? Where do we begin?
So basically
give us a
what,
tour?
let me just give you a little bit of a description on the product itself. It's a very ingredient-dense, nutrient-dense food, and it can be used as obviously a snack, but also as a topper to boost other foods like cereals or salads or even soups. So I took the standardized kale chip and really wanted to vamp it up with all the macronutrients, meaning, your fats, your carbs, and your proteins, plant-based proteins. So I added fresh fruits, 4 different types of seeds, which I'll get into a little bit later as far as the nutritional background and benefits. But I decided to use hemp hearts as a mainstay.
I love those.
Only because they are a nutritional powerhouse as far as plant-based protein. 14 grams for 3 tablespoons. So they're fantastic, and they have a really nice little nutty taste. So I use those in each blend. I will use chia in 2 out of the 3 blends, which are also really high in antioxidants and omega-3s. So fantastic for the brain and the heart,
And you can make
as
a
well as
chia
the
pet
flax.
from them.
And we can make a chia pet from them.
Sorry, I just did a plug for Chia Pet now.
I
Are they
know,
still
right?
around? Can you still get a chia pet?
You-
Or do you have to make
They've
your own?
expanded. They
I
now
know.
are everything. Their heads, their everything.
They made
the Christmas
chia,
gift
they
no
put
one
chia,
wanted, right?
They put chia on the map, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Nobody
You
heard
knew
about
of
chia
chia.
before that.
Before
Who knew you could
chia
eat it?
Pets, right? Yeah, it's a great little powerhouse of a seed.
Now we're using it as food
And-
instead of, plants. Or
Yeah.
whatever. Christmas
Pets.
Pets, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So now we're the one that's benefiting from the chia, and who knew, right? So my seed blend in all of the preparations are, obviously the pumpkin seeds, the sunflower seeds, the hemp hearts, and either the chia or the flax, which basically is the magic of getting them all to stick together. Because once we put liquid to these little babies, they turn into some sort of
Oh, yeah.
nice little gooey substance, if you didn't already know.
I love that gooey substance.
It's great. It really
Okay,
works.
so
It's great fiber as well.
you got, what do you have?
You
3
just want to
different-
get right to
I do. I'm looking at these clusters and.
Okay, stop talking,
quiet,
Michelle. Let's get going.
No, but no. So you have 3 different kinds of
3 different
clusters. Are these
blends.
products you make and sell?
Absolutely.
So these are available right there.
Yes,
From-
they are available mainly online. My store is online, but I am in some of the stores in the GTA, the smaller stores. I want it to be a niche product. I don't want it to necessarily, compete with the other kale chips on the market. So I try to keep it in a niche marketplace.
Okay, they look good. It looks like I've probably had some of these before somewhere. Somebody probably
Never.
brought these kale chips or something.
Never.
They look
So
familiar.
I always correct people that say kale chips
Okay.
because they
So-
are kale clusters. And consider yourself
Do
corrected.
your homework, man.
No offense taken, but only just that kale chips are a very simplistic food. As we know, they're basically just a kale leaf with some
Stuff on it.
seasoning on it, or olive oil, or at best maybe some nutritional
At
yeast
best,
for that
that's
cheesy.
So these are
So I go above and beyond
Way better.
As far as what is in or what is attached to the kale chip. So I have in this blend, this is my chipotle lime pistachio.
Can I try one of those?
blend.
Okay, let's try those while we're talking
Please
about
do.
them. What's this? Is this a lime?
This is a lime. Hopefully, it's not a GMO lime.
It's the biggest lime I've ever
I
seen.
know. I
As
wanted
big as
to-
your head,
I
almost.
tried to get the biggest one to show up on camera, but
Here, can you pass
I
those
don't think
to
it would have been
Soup?
a problem if it was any smaller. So what's nice about this is it's kind of a take on a chip flavor, an all-dressed chip flavor. I'm going for many different, the marriage of many different flavors. So I have the tang of the green apple and the lime married with the chipotle, a little bit of punch from the chipotle powder, and a little bit of sweetness from jewel dates. So
I'm scared to
It's
smell
kind
it
of
now.
sweet.
it's kind of sweet, kind of tangy, kind of spicy, and
It's a
it kind of
savory,
wakes up your.
You know,
But it's got a
it
savory
is
and a
it
sweet
is
going
the
on.
savory one of the family. So I use pistachios in this blend,
Mm-hmm.
and that also really goes nicely with the different flavors that I've mentioned before.
Okay, let's
and-
try it. Yeah, sorry.
So what's nice about this is also there is, along with the chia, I use a sesame paste as well. So the sesame, as we know, in nutrition, is very high in calcium. Great way to get your calcium that is plant-based and not have to go into the dairy for your calcium, which doesn't really
They so often do,
benefit
and
you
it's so,
anyway.
because it's cheap, right? The
Exactly.
milk solids and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And from what I've learned in nutrition, calcium from dairy actually leaches calcium from the bones. So it's really kind of
That's
spitting in
right.
the wind,
It's
for
like
lack of a
anti-
better
Yeah.
I don't know
of a
how
better
they got away with
expression.
it. How they got away with it.
Yes, exactly. So this is a much more bioavailable source of calcium, and as is soy, as is tofu as well. But I don't use any soy in my product, so I chose the sesame butter for this particular blend. Peanut banana speaks for itself.
Peanut banana. Let's.
Couldn't like that one.
Which one is the peanut banana?
So the peanut banana is in the middle.
Okay.
I know you want some.
I was going to smile because I've been eating.
I know. I always carry a
Thank
a
you.
little pocket mirror
I need a
with me
little
now
mirror.
because,
Why? Because of the.
yeah, it kind of gives you a nice little green glow to your teeth sometimes. I really should sell it with some dental floss, right?
Is that like a meal?
Yes. So I do market it as a meal in a snack because you have your
great.
greens and your superfoods like your ginger and your kale, but also your fruits and your nuts and
That's
seeds. It's really a full, balanced nutritional profile. So yes, it can be a meal and a snack.
And if you like peanut butter and banana sandwiches,
Yeah.
As
those
I
will
do.
the peanut butter and banana thing
Yes.
without the all that wheat. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Or if you're like me, teaspoon of peanut butter, throw it on the banana, and away you go.
That's true.
Oh, and dunk it in some of these babies because then you get even more protein.
What are those babies?
They're called hemp hearts.
Hemp hearts.
And they're nutritional powerhouses. So they can really go on anything, and I really advocate the use of hemp hearts, especially if you're exploring a plant-based diet. So we've got the peanut butter banana. They also have the 3 seeds in there that I mentioned, and the peanut is the nut. Now this is the last but not least blend, and it is pear pecan spice. And
Whoa.
the spice
Ooh, yeah.
is a pumpkin pie spice.
Oh,
So think Thanksgiving, think your cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger deliciousness, and I pair that. Get it?
You're kind of person, huh? With the corny jokes.
I know I'm
You get
really
extra
corny
marks.
when it comes to wordplay. Don't get me started. So I pair that with a really nice almond butter, sweet potato. So this one isn't considered raw if you're looking for raw food. Dehydrated food is considered raw food if it's dehydrated at 110
That's
or
what I was
below.
going to ask you, what the temperature is. You
100
can still call something
Yes,
raw.
exactly. Anything above that is raw foodists are a little, they get a little
Here, oops, sorry, I'm spitting out my food here.
Oh, okay. So, so they are dehydrated at 110, although the yams are steamed in order to make the paste. I steam up the yams. So this one isn't really considered raw, but it does have fresh ginger in there as well as the figs and the seeds and the nuts. So pecans are in there, and
Love pecans.
it's a really nice blend.
Can you offer them to Sue first though this
Thank
time
you. Oh, thank you.
because she loves pecans.
Mm.
Thank you.
I feel like we should have like water to cleanse the palate in between each one.
Yeah. It's got that pumpkin pie
Yes.
vibe.
Carrot cakey too.
Yeah. This is more of a dessert type of kale cluster, and I was inspired by my past of growing up on desserts and having a sweet tooth. My mom God bless her soul, she was a baker, and I turned into a baker. So we always had sweets in the house, and I basically took this blend from a muffin recipe, and took the flour out, and took the grains out, and I just added the greens and the seeds in the
Not
nuts.
that anyone cares, but pumpkin pie is my favorite dessert.
You know, it used to be among my favorites as well. And then something changed. I don't
Oh
know.
dear. Is there a story behind that?
I don't know, but I used to love the pumpkin pie, but now I like
Butter
the lemon
tarts, too.
meringue and the
Oh, you've grown
coconut
up.
cream. Those are my favorite pies now.
See.
I hear you on that one. On those two, actually, especially the lemon meringue. So, so yeah, basically, this was my solution to people that are on the go, outdoorsy people that are, you know, hiking, biking around the city, that are looking for a snack that's going to sustain them.
Right.
They're just busy work people, you know?
Or just people at their desks that want to hold, you know, want to be held, their hunger to be satiated, and not get hungry in that, you know, 3 o'clock slump or whatever that is. And
Forget about those Mars bars.
no,
Right?
because your blood sugar goes up and then plummets
yeah.
right down, and then you're looking for something else. And sugar does act as a, you know, an addictive type of chemical in the brain, so you're just looking for something more after you finish.
Sorry, what makes those last ones? They're sweet. They're very desserty. What?
So the last ones are sweetened with the figs
Oh, okay.
and the pears.
So all natural
So-
fruit, fructose, super healthy sugars.
Exactly, and they're slow-acting sugars on the glycemic index, which
Yeah.
means basically they're not going to spike your
body knows
your
how to
energy
deal with those
and-
sugars.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And one thing, another thing I should mention, which is another trick that I learned studying nutrition, is nuts and seeds are considered dormant foods, and nutritionally or energy dormant foods because of their long shelf life. So what the general practice in the nutrition world is to soak, pre-soak your nuts. And do I get a laugh? Come on, people.
Imagine that
We were all trying to
pre-soaking
be
your nuts.
mature here, but-
You were all trying to be, well, you know, that went out the window a long time ago. But anyways, so we're, you know, it's very important to soak the nuts and the seeds in order to enliven the enzymes so that they become more biodigestible and bioavailable, and you don't get the, you know, the bloating or the indigestion from
Oh, I didn't
eating
know
too
that.
much.
That is
So-
just more good news. Now, okay, so you've got these 3 products that we see here, right? Clusters is the brand, right?
That is the brand.
Now you have 3 different versions here.
Yes.
Do you have more available or more on the way, or?
That's a great question. So around Valentine's Day and Christmas time, I do have a holiday clusters come out online, and that is with dark chocolate and strawberries, and it's decadent, if I can say so myself. It's really, really nice. It is, we use almonds in there as the nut, and of course the seed blend that I mentioned, but the chocolate and the strawberry together is just pretty darn good.
I don't think anyone's going to argue that point.
And is it something you can toss in a Halloween loot bag? Know what I'm saying?
Well, we have to be careful with our nuts around the kiddies because a lot of them are, it is not a nut-free treat. I will be the first to, you know, to make that clear. So it's not necessarily kid-friendly unless, you know, you're sure that the kids are not allergic to nuts and seeds. But yeah, it
If
really.
you're not, dig in.
If you're not, and it's such a pleasure to see these kids, you know, come over to my table at markets, and they, you know, they ask and then they try it and they love it.
Yum.
You know, it's not
I love
it's
them.
not necessarily a mature snack. It's for everyone. So
Now, you mentioned you're in certain stores in and around Toronto, but you said primarily you're online. So can people order
Online.
these from your website?
absolutely,
They can order like any
any
quantities
combination,
they want?
any quantity. Yeah.
And then,
shipping within the GTA.
Are you also open to retailers who might want to carry your products?
Oh, absolutely.
Across the country or beyond?
Absolutely. I'd love to see the company grow. Again, as I mentioned, I'd like to also see that it's going to the right people, and I'd love to be introducing the product at this point in time. So I do a lot of markets, and I do a lot of events around the city, and so that way I can actually
Meet your people.
meet my people.
So when's your
Yeah.
next event? Where are you going to be?
I will be at the Trinity Bellwoods Flea, May 22nd, I believe, whatever
A
that.
long weekend.
I believe it's. I'll have to check. But if you go online and you Google Trinity Bellwoods Flea, you'll find out the next market. So I do a number of their markets.
And do you keep people abreast of your things on your website as well?
Absolutely. Not so much on the website, but on my cluster's Facebook page and on my Real Handful Instagram account. So that's _real_handful. That's where you can find me.
Instagram.
And
right?
that's Instagram, yeah.
But you got the website too, realhandful.com.
Right.
Right. And Cole, what? Oh, Facebook. They look up clusters with a K, right?
Clusters with a K.
Why'd you pick the K to start your clusters with?
Well, we'll have to ask my daughter that. I have to give credit to Melanie. She said, why don't we just, it was originally called A Real Handful Snacks.
Oh.
And that's where, the original website came from. And she's like, it has to be a little more
Cool.
Catchy.
With a K.
and market catchy.
Yeah.
So clusters with a K, obviously, because the main product is kale.
Oh, yeah, kale. Well, there you go. Right? Plus, clusters with a C is just some generic thing. Anything
Yes,
could be a
and
cluster.
you could just go to Costco
And
and get
their
clusters.
website, your website is so good, so clever, so creative,
Really?
so cute, so cool.
We're going to have to check that out.
Thank
Well, so
you.
can everyone else watching right now.
Yes.
Arealhandful.com, right?
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for doing this.
My pleasure. Feel free to
I
dig
think we're going to
in.
have to.
Yeah.
I know we got a whole bunch of people in the other room. We got all these people here. We got all this food.
locusts
So
will
let's
just
open it
descend
up
on-
and people can sample
It's gonna be a
this
free-for-all.
stuff.
Absolutely.
So thank you for coming down.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for doing this type of thing where, a lot of people can get informed and enlightened about
We gotta stick
the world
together.
of veganism. And I personally just started this, getting my toe wet in this world about 3 or 4 months ago. I was vegetarian for over 20 years, but making that last leap, I got involved at a much deeper level and started seeing a lot of videos that
Wow.
horrified
Yeah.
me, and I became really connected to the horrors of the dairy and the egg industry as well, and I just really I have to just share something with you guys, because I was really bored on a delayed subway on the way down here, and I do a little bit of acting as well and singing, so my creative brain just went a little crazy, as it usually does, out of boredom. So I have to just sing like 3 or 4 lines from a song that I just made up about why I became vegan. So this is going to just wrap it up, and I hope I'm not self-indulgent. Hugh's looking
No,
at
go
me
for it.
like,
Supposed to be. It's all
but
about you.
this will basically tell the story. So, where do I begin to tell the story of why I became vegan? The anti-love story that's older than the sea. It hit me like a speeding skier hits a tree. Animals should be free. I had to give you some entertainment value. Anyway, thank you again for having me and my clusters on the show. And dig in, everyone.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michelle. That was a great way to end it,
My pleasure.
especially with all the applause.
Yeah, I love that. Gotta
Okay,
love
so
applause.
we're going to just break now, and we got still more coming up. Diane Devenyi's coming on next. So come on over, guys, and help yourself to some of these snacks, and we'll continue right
Yes.
after this here on thatchannel.com. All right, we're back on the show here. It's me, Hugh. Sue is here as my co-host on Calling All Vegans. Not to be confused with Vegan Voices.
Or
All
all
just
to veganism.
we're doing it all for Nikki Hayes.
Yeah.
Right?
Or vegan kind.
Well-
Or Meatless Monday was it.
Or-
This is 5 now. So.
And Diane is here. Diane Devenyi is joining us. Not the first time, right, Diane?
That's right. It's always a completely different topic.
Well, and today is vegan, calling all vegans. So I didn't even know you were vegan, but apparently...
Yeah, apparently I am. I actually have 2 sisters who have been very consistent vegetarians and ultimately vegans for a number of years, and they kept on asking if I would watch some of these movies that can be life-changing. And so a few years ago, my sister invited me to a vegan Thanksgiving potluck where they were also showing Peaceable Kingdom.
Oh, that's a nice one.
And so at the end of the movie, I think it took me about 15 minutes before I could speak. I was just
Choked
just
you right up.
yeah, I was
Peaceable
so,
Kingdom? That was the movie?
yeah, I was
Okay.
so moved, particularly the cows and the dairy industry, and I just thought, I don't want to contribute to that anymore. And I also am really passionate about Mother Earth. And I'm so grateful for movies like Cowspiracy that are actually demonstrating the impact of animal agriculture on the environment, because that's another piece. And I also believe that health is our greatest asset, and if we eat foods that support our well-being, then and the planet. And reduce animal cruelty, like that's pretty much a no-brainer for me.
That's a win-win-win
That's right.
situation.
So,
So we mentioned, Cowspiracy's already come up today because yesterday was Earth Day, and it was actually Mary Chris who wrote, and you were doing that too yesterday.
Newmarket, represent.
Newmarket, right?
if I had known, I would have done that. I love writing with chalk
Oh, really?
on sidewalks. I used to have my kids keep them busy for hours on our driveway because we had an interlock, and I would give them all these big blocks of chalk and keep them busy coloring all kinds of designs. And so chalk on sidewalk, I'm in. So next time
I'm
let me
sorry
know.
I left my chalk at home before I left today. I found it in my pocket. I said, I threw it on the kitchen counter and ran, but had I known,
Well, your pocket's
could have
all-
chalked up the floor.
Well, it's just kind of interesting that she was also talking about putting chalk messages down at schools all over the GTA, and I know you have a vision for reforming education.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, my passion and what I say is my actual calling is to revamp education on the planet. I have 3 children who are grown now, but when they were younger, I realized that our system hadn't improved, and I think it actually was in some ways worse than when I was growing up. And then one of my sons at 10 years old just stopped cooperating. He said they're not nice and what they're doing is stupid. And actually he and his wife are now vegan, as an aside. Not because of me, they found that their own way. But I, of course, a brilliant, creative, sensitive child, and I thought there's something wrong with this system that is not engaging and supporting this beautiful child. And I started looking into where we were failing our children and found that what we really need is holistic education. And ultimately, when we educate the whole being, I think veganism is a natural choice as well. Because when our current education system teaches us to feel very isolated. It's called cheating if you collaborate. in some ways. And also we don't have, we have an agenda for what we've identified as being important, but the world that has been created by that system is one that has war and environmental destruction and animal cruelty and human degradation. So we definitely need a new blueprint. And I would say the one that I found that really spoke to me was a civil rights activist and theologian from the U.S., Howard Thurman. And he said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is more people who have come alive." And I think and truly when you come alive, that's when you are finding from the core of who you are. And when people are given that opportunity to know thyself, which is something for thousands of years we've had that message, know thyself, and know from where you truly come and the fact that we are all connected, then we will make choices for a world that works for everyone, and for a world that is sustainable and kinder, and so that's the vision I have. And then the question is, well, how do we get there? There's another quote that I love from Alvin Toffler, a futurist who actually passed away, I believe, last year. And he said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. It will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." And in this world, I have faced that when I look at myself as an educational activist. Because at first, I had the mother bear in me rising up and saying, my cubs are in danger, and I see the cubs of all of these other parents in danger, and I'm here to do something about that. And I was ready to, once I started to understand how we could educate differently, I just wanted to go and tell them all that they were wrong. And nobody likes to hear that they're wrong. And nobody likes to hear that they've even done any damage to anybody prior to even finding out. So it's that cognitive dissonance that we have when we're discussing veganism as well, because we all, and unless from birth we have been eating that way, we all have this sense of, what have I done, and how do I get past that? And it's the same thing in education. For me to get an educator to understand that there is another way, and for them to realize that they have scores of children in their past who were not being served, and who I sometimes will clearly say have actually failed them. But I also say it's not our fault. Like we're doing our best. This is an experiment. Life is an experiment, and it's something that you start and then you try certain things, and if you don't like the way it goes, then you can change that. And so that's really my message now. And I think that's also for people who want to express the vegan message, to realize how difficult it is for people to come to terms with choices that they've made in the past if they realize that they've been doing harm. And so we can, we really need to have the compassion in our message that we want them to express to animals. Like we need to be compassionate to them. But we also need to feel that we have the capacity to give a strong message, that we have the capacity to be of value. Because, as I said, our educational system tends to limit our sense of what we can do, who we are. And now in this day of social media and instant connectivity, we actually have an opportunity to give messages in ways that have never been possible before. And the most unlikely people are doing things that are going viral. And so it's really democratizing the message. So I want people to know that they actually have something valuable to say, and most importantly, that there is no there is no person who is of less value than someone else, and in particular that people who through school ever felt that they were stupid, or have been called lazy, or told to pay attention, or have handwriting that caused them so much grief and continues to be that way through their adult lives. There is a whole nother way, and that's what I've been committed to. So I'll stop now.
Well, how does that happen, Diane? When is this new educational system going to be everywhere?
Well, I actually, I have a program that I call Alphabetter workshops. And in those workshops, it's a 2-day mastery experience. So it's learning what it means to learn something with certainty, to be a master of something. And what you actually master in the experience is the alphabet. Because for many, there are gaps, there are points of confusion that unknowingly are causing people to not have a sense of their capacity to be fully expressed. It could be just messy handwriting. They could be poor spellers. They could have reading or putting their thoughts into written word issues. And so in experiences, and I've developed it so that it's a collaborative experience, it's very hands-on, it's a lot of fun. So the wiring in their brain starts to say, oh my gosh, learning is actually a lot of fun. And other people want me to be successful with them. And I actually am creating a new story of myself.
Well, they're finally getting some reward out of
So I've done pilot projects in schools where, as I was developing my programs, then went back to school to get a master's degree in education, where I realized people still don't really understand what's going on that well. And now I thought, well, I'm going to look outside the system first and ultimately create a demand for it to come into the system through my workshops. And I'm going to put it out here now, although sometimes they say don't say things until they're done, but I'm really committed to making this happen. Last week I was, sometimes I kind of do meditation to determine what my next activity is, and I thought, what would be the most fun way that I could get my message out into the world? And what came back to me was get dyslexic people like Richard Branson, Eric Edmeades, and other amazing people who have self-identified or otherwise identified as being dyslexic, and do a workshop with them, live stream it, give them an opportunity to raise money for their favorite charities. And I thought, that would be fun. I would love to do that. And then I thought, well, where and when? And Mind Valley University, it is a new brainchild of Mind Valley, which is an online, amazing learning set of courses where they say you're learning all the things you never learned in school. And they really directed more to adults, but ultimately they want to impact children as well. So they've started this 1 month long, what they call Mind Valley University. And they say, if you're an entrepreneur, go here for 1 month, then go out for 11 months of the year, spreading your message, doing your work, come back to us, recharge, learn more. So that's their whole vision. So I thought, in Mind Valley University, it's in Tallinn, Estonia this year, in July. And I thought, okay, that's my goal. So that can be a big game changer. I've also written one book that's in the process of being published, and a number of others on the way. And the first one is called Hey Genius, Your Letter Disorder is Showing. And letter disorder is what people express in their writing when they haven't mastered the alphabet. So it could be messy handwriting or spelling or reading or turning thoughts into words. It could be any of those issues. And I just want to start changing the conversation about what that is. And so that's kind of where I am now. With respect to vegans who want to get their message out, I want to be fully supportive. I want people to realize they have something to say, and let's do it in a way that comes from the heart in the best way possible so that it can be heard. Because we see a lot of activists over time. Like I'll say David Suzuki is one of them, who had a hard time getting a message across because he was so right in what he was saying, but how he was saying it was so difficult for people to hear. And I think it was his daughter who got him to soften up. And that's really what I'd love to see happening.
Yeah, you have to make yourself palatable for people to swallow
Yeah.
what you're saying.
But if you come from your
That was
heart,
deep.
Way too deep.
Oh, where did that come from?
So you're headed to Estonia then in the summer?
that's the plan.
That
That's
sounds-
my plan.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And now, are you doing anything around Toronto?
Well, I offer workshops in Toronto.
I know you have a great space to do workshops.
I have
in.
a great space to do workshops. And there are some for adults and some for children and some focusing on people who are learning English as a second or foreign language. Just giving a little bit of extra information that each of those groups might need. Interestingly, I just did a presentation at George Brown College to some of their faculty, and some of them came up to me and were concerned about a 4-year-old grandson and a 5-year-old niece, and I thought, oh my gosh, like I have worked with that age, and in the projects I was doing, but I'm not a fan of forcing kids at that age to be literate, but our system is expecting it, and so I was thinking, gosh, I might need to do some really early age group workshops as well to give these children and their parents or their caregivers what they need to make them system proof. So.
Okay, well, Diane, I know you just live a 10-minute walk away from the studios here, so you're welcome here anytime. In fact, we've got some of your plants here that are brightening up our space right now, and we're very grateful for having those, so thanks.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for all that, and thanks for doing this today. Now, do you have a website or contact info you want to give out for yourself?
Well, I would say if people are interested in learning more about the workshops, alphabetterworkshops.com. Alphabetter.
Oh, I see.
Alphabetter workshops.com.
Very clever.
My company is the Learning Force, and it's got a broader range of things on that. So thelearningforce.com as well. And I'm kind of developing all my social media around all of those as well.
Great.
But once the book's out, I'll be back.
Which, the Hey Genius book,
Yeah, Hey
right?
the
See,
Hey
that's a
Genius
great
book.
way to start a conversation with labeling someone as a genius
Yeah.
before you even get into the rest of it.
Yeah, and some people think I'm being sarcastic, but people who know me know I'm sincere with that
Well, everybody's
statement.
a genius in their own special way, right?
And in
I'd say.
usually greater ways than they even know.
Deep
Yeah,
again?
even you came up with a couple of deep thoughts here today, Sue. Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
For doing this. And so we're going to wrap up the Calling All Vegan show. Okay, Sue?
Thank you to my friends for coming today. Thank you, guys.
But I just want to, before we end this fantastic vegan show, I just want to say don't go away from that channel, because we've got a few people from the Messiah Foundation all the way here from the UK and in Canada here. So we're going to have a conversation with them right after this here on thatchannel.com. So we'll be right back.